Coming up, what's new on Disney Plus today, and the UK government seems to have a problem with Disney Plus. But before we get into any of that, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at DisneyPlus.com. It's Wednesday, it's time to jump into some of today's big Disney Plus news, and as Wednesdays are the new Fridays, we got the third episode of Marvel Studios' Loki, so that was the big addition today, which you'll find all over the place. Great episode, lots of action, lots of Loki in this one. Yeah, it's a really great episode. Don't want to go into too much spoilers, but we'll be on a full breakdown later this week on the podcast, and I'll also have a written review up on the website. Disney has also released the first trailer for Turner and Hooch, though you could have watched it if you managed to find Turner and Hooch on the Disney Plus app. For some reason, they put it up a little bit earlier there. So this new series is going to be coming on the 21st of July. So again, this is going to be a new Wednesday release. And then that'll be rolling on for 12 weeks. So that'll be growing right through till October. I'm really looking forward to this series. I love the original movie. It does look like, by the trailer, that they have kind of killed off Tom Hanks's character, and now they've kind of passed on a new dog to his son, which is, it's not a spoiler. It's pretty much straight there in the trailer. They're kind of getting that out of the way, so there won't be any concept of a cameo in this one. I'm really, like I said, looking forward to it, but then I really like that kind of style of dog, and I just think it looks a lot of fun, lots of action. It's very different to anything that we've seen on Disney Plus so far, and as I said, this one will be coming on Wednesday the 21st. But let me know what you think of the trailer in the comments below. Disney is currently developing a brand new comedy series here in the United Kingdom called Wedding Season. Now this one is being created by Dancing Ledge Productions and also Ajax Media, and this one we don't really know too much more about it other than it being 30-minute episodes. There'll be 6 episodes in the season, and it's kind of interesting what they're doing with this one because Disney is committed to making 50 European exclusives by 2024 for Disney Plus. And we don't yet know how this one will be released internationally. If it's a Disney Plus series, then we can end up seeing it on Disney Plus around there. However, if it's a Star original, then it'll end up going to Hulu in the United States. And obviously with, I think, British Disney Plus originals and Star originals, they can pretty much be released everywhere because of it's a much easier language to do than, for example, maybe a French or a German Disney Plus original. Deadline is saying that Oliver Littleton is writing the series. As of that, we don't really know too much more about it, but it's definitely great to see new Disney Plus originals being created in the United Kingdom. And speaking of the United Kingdom, the UK government is kind of having a little bit of an issue with streaming services like Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, where essentially their current regulations that they've got in place need some updating because they were last updated 18 years ago when Netflix was still kind of renting out DVDs. So they kind of want to do an update to the process that they currently have to put them under the Ofcom, which is a media regulator which currently looks after like Sky, BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and they kind of want to basically make streaming services fall under that. So that kind of comes under kind of ratings in terms of what they're putting out there, but also if there's any complaints, and primarily for sort of news and documentaries to make sure that they're kind of unbiased, and there's a kind of a way of them controlling, because what they don't want is things going out there which basically are completely false and there's no way of kind of pulling it down. Now this is something, like I said, there's a lot of hype around this one here in terms of the UK government trying to kind of regulate and kind of control all the streaming service. A lot of this is just about updating the current regulations. There's doing a review, and there will be a white paper released later this year. Existing audience protections on the UK regulated video on demand services are primarily focused at the minute on children and rules preventing content which incites hatred. Some services have already introduced their own voluntary procedures, such as Netflix voluntary age-rated partnership with the BBFC. The current landscape, which is inconsistent, ad hoc and potentially harmful gap in regulation between video on demand services, alongside a potential competitive disadvantage between UK broadcasters and their internationally funded online counterparts. The government will also take forward existing commitments to legislate to strengthen public services broadcasters' prominence online so that their video on demand content can be found and accessed on smart TVs and other platforms and devices. The UK's Digital Secretary, Oliver Dowden, said technology has transformed broadcasting, but the rules of protecting viewers and helping our traditional channels compete are far from an analogue age. The time has come to look at how we can unleash the potential of our public service broadcasting while also making sure viewers and listeners consuming content on new formats are served by a fair and well-functioning system. In another statement from a UK government source, UK broadcasters are having to compete with these giants with one hand tied behind their backs. These companies have deep pockets and go largely unregulated, leaving them free to expose their interpretation of British life. The rules governing the way broadcasters operate are written for an analogue age. They are not fit for purpose in an era of smart TVs, streaming and on-demand programming. With the change of pace and the increase in global competition, the Culture Secretary feels it's time to have a look at how we can level the playing field between broadcasters and video on-demand services and make sure the UK broadcasting landscape is fit for the 21st century. There are a couple of key things we've got to look at here. First off, Disney has been dealing with Ofcom for years with running the Disney Channel, and also most recently with Fox and National Geographic. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing for them to get involved. It just means now that they're going to have to compete much more better with the BBC and Sky, because essentially what's happening there is they are having to follow one set of rules and the streamers are going by another ones, and they're just continuing to grow. And like I said, I mean, some of this I think is a little bit of survival of the fittest. You know, we're seeing this all going on now with ITV and Channel 4, and they're all trying to compete against the big boys. They've tried to come together to do BritBox. I would say that that's probably hasn't worked so well. What people maybe don't quite realise, especially here in the United Kingdom, the BBC is funded by us, and we actually have to subscribe essentially. So I have to pay a TV license every year, a couple of £100, and pretty much if you use live television, you have to subscribe to this. And up till recently, up till just like last year, it was illegal if you had a television watching live TV without it. Things have got really muddled with people like streaming and also having game consoles and stuff like that. But up to a certain point, if you had a television, you could get arrested and put in prison for not having a TV license. So it's essentially along the lines of, if you haven't got a Netflix subscription, you could go to jail. And that was kind of, it was pretty serious. Things have kind of come down. And there's a lot of talk here in the United Kingdom of changing the way that the BBC is funded, because a lot of people don't agree with this whole idea of making us have to pay for it if we don't want to watch it. You know, you could have to pay for it if you're watching, for example, ITV or Sky News, but you've still got to pay the BBC. And a lot of people aren't too happy about that and think that it needs to change. And also, you know, maybe as well some of the other networks and stuff maybe aren't big enough. But things are all moving around. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad for Disney Plus, but it just means they're going to have some more battles. And I think this is going to be happening all over the world as other countries and stuff start realizing that they need to put more emphasis on not just protecting us, the viewers, but also protecting the sort of the jobs and actors and the production companies and everything going on. You know, what we don't want, and this is why they've already introduced things like quotas to make sure there's content being made over here on the streaming services, is making Disney do things, for example, like Wedding Season, which I sort of spoke about earlier, and those 50 shows, making them make shows over here. So rather than we're just getting all the American content. Now, while I love American TV shows and watch loads of them, I definitely can see the idea that they need to have kind of this idea of almost forcing Netflix and Amazon and Disney to make these shows, because if they didn't, they'd just keep sort of churning out what they're already doing. It's a very big, complex situation, but things are obviously going to keep moving on with this. But as I said, I suspect we'll see a lot more of this. I know, like in Australia and also in Canada, there's been a pushback. Some of them even wanting streamers to actually pay into a pot so that local TV companies can kind of compete with them and stuff. There's a lot of things going on, and kind of a lot of protectionism to try and keep, you know, our local way of doing television, while some people say maybe not competitive business like. Internationally, that's less of an issue. You know, we don't tend to look as just being commercially viable as the only thing that was important. But nevertheless, that is the big one today. Let me know what you think of all of this in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.